Hi everybody, Brian from Rebel Traders here. It's the weekend, April 29th, end of the month, and we just got through a really big week of earnings. Lots of stuff came out, some good stuff on the tech side, and markets all ended up positive on the week, which I suspected they would. I think the bias is still the upside, but let's take a look at what happened last week. And then we'll look ahead and see what we got coming up this coming week. We got a big week here with the Fed reporting, so their decision on interest rates is going to be entertaining. So let's get down to it. All right, let's start out by looking at what happened last week of April 24th. We had lots of good earnings reports come out. Good, but not great, but certainly good was all it took to really push the stocks higher that have been in favor. Microsoft, Meta, to name a few. And some good news on the inflation front. GDP came out at 1.1%, which was showing the economy was cooling. And this PCE price index that the Fed tends to watch the most as an inflation indicator was 0.3%. It was pretty much what was expected, but again, both numbers indicating economy at least is slowing down, which of course is being taken as good news by the markets, believing that the interest rate hikes are going to be coming to an end, which again reminds me that next week we do have interest rate decision where everybody's expecting quarter point, but I think a lot of people will be listening pretty intently to what Chair Powell says when he starts to speak after the rate announcement. So seeing if he's a little more hawkish or a little more dovish or still hawkish and future rate hikes on the table. So, but as you can see, we finished up on the week, except for the IWM, the small caps. Again, small caps heavily weighted to some of the regional banks, smaller banks, which have, of course, been under the microscope, and some of them have been suffering because of the recent meltdown with SVB, etc. As far as strength and weakness goes, sectors, communication services, of course, dragged up by Meta. Technology sector just generally was good because of Microsoft, of course, had a good earnings report, and more importantly, good outlook. Healthcare and utilities were the losers on the week. And as far as the treasuries go, we hardly moved at all, just down slightly on both the 2 and 10-year. US dollar, again, really flat. Again, it tends to move with the treasuries, so treasuries didn't move, neither did the dollar. And Bitcoin, I shouldn't say it was down a lot this week. It came back up. It's now trading around 29,400, which is about $2,000 higher than last week. So that's not accurate. And so before we get going and looking at some charts here, I always like to take a moment for a quick plug for my book on Amazon, Profiting as an Active Trader, Guide to Trading Tools, Money Management, Rules, Strategies, and the Routines of both stock and an option trader. So if you want to check that out, it's there on Amazon. So let's get down and look at some charts here. Again, as I mentioned earlier in the last week review, you can see here very little movement on the treasury yields from the previous year. We're really just chopping inside a very narrow range here for the last month or so. And if we go to the 10-year, again, we are still really just chopping in a range here, a little bit down on the week, but again, sort of recession fear maybe, but just hardly a blip on the screen at this point. Transports had a nice Thursday. We had a big sell-off Tuesday, Wednesday, and then a big bounce back Thursday, Friday. Transports really did break down though on those last 2 days, so struggling a little bit there, maybe an indication that recession, people are starting to think about recession. Transports obviously a key indicator of economic activity, and you can see here we're still struggling to get above this sort of 14,500 level on the transports, so keeping an eye on that as always. The Dow, again, Tuesday, Wednesday, big sell-offs. Thursday, Friday, right back at it, right back to this high, and actually broke out above it. And this was an area I was flagging as resistance, and and we did break through that on Friday on volume, no less. So stochastics hooking back up here, momentum indicators all looking like we may go higher, and then this next level here. That was a major test that failed around 34,300 on the Dow. See on the weekly again, breaking out of this sort of downtrending weekly range and looking like it wants to go higher. The Qs, sort of same story here. We've been chopping in a bit of a range here. Thursday, Friday, we came ripping back. And you can see here, we really just broke out here on Friday, and pretty decent volume on both of those up days as well. Stochastics hooking up, MACD hooking up, RSI above 50. All the indicators are pointing to a move higher here. And you can see here on the weekly, just breaking out of this little range, and then we've got 330, which would be the next test for the Qs. The SPY, won't repeat myself, same story. Down Tuesday, Wednesday, back up Thursday, Friday. You can see here, decent volume. Momentum indicators all going up. And again, kind of a breakout here on the weekly chart. And then again, we've got another level here around 420, which will be the next test, which is from back here. So again, bias still to the upside. And the IWM, we're stuck in a range here. We were stuck in a range all last year, and we seem to be stuck in a range now here this year as well. Still below all these moving averages. We did have some nice recovery days there at the end of the week, but again, stochastics really oversold. Maybe we'll get a bit of a bounce back, but I think the regional banks still an overhang on the IWM. Plus, if there is a recession, the small caps are the ones that usually suffer the most. It's the large caps that have all the money and the resources to make it through those lean times, whereas the small caps have more of a challenge. So again, that's sort of why maybe we're seeing the small cap IWM index continue to struggle here. The VIX, what can you say about the VIX? I mean, there is absolutely no fear in the market. Again, this sort of reinforces the idea that biases to the upside. If there was any worry about a sell-off, that the VIX would be going the opposite direction. The dollar, again, sort of flat on the week. And there's the weekly chart. We do seem to be just trading in a narrow range here. And Bitcoin. Bitcoin had a nice little bounce back here midweek after selling off down to about 27,000, which is where we went out about last week. So it's had a bit of a comeback here. And this 30,000 level still seems to be the next level to break through if we're going to move higher. Maybe even a little above it. It did try to poke ahead above it and couldn't quite get there. Okay, so let's just finish up and take a look at stuff that I am watching this week. You can see here, first one up is Apple. Apple is reporting on Thursday, so I won't be taking a trade until after that earnings report, but you can see here, Apple's just been on a tear, keeps breaking out here, pullbacks get bought, and yeah, kind of like a safety trade when the banks aren't working. But you can see here we're coming up, this is the weekly, you can see we're coming into some areas of resistance, so it'll be interesting to see if we do gap up or if Disney disappoints a little on their earnings. So waiting for that to happen first. Airbnb looking like it's going to make a move here on Friday. We got through the two moving averages, and it certainly looks like it's starting to turn up here, looking fairly strong. Whoops, here. All the momentum indicators are looking good on this, and this could be either a short sale on a put, or just long with some calls, or long Airbnb. Amazon's pulled back significantly here. You can see here possibly back, well, it's down below the 200-day moving average. Pretty erratic, but it does look like 110 seems to be area of resistance. So could be good for a short on a put. Baidu looks like it. I had this nice short on Baidu. Now I'm watching it. It looks like it could be a long trade up to this 126 level, where if I don't get long, I will look to short it again. CMG, again, this is a possible um, short trade for a call. So you look at the big gap up here on the earnings, had a really good earnings, really blew it out, and really just screamed higher after that earnings report came out and the stock opened up. But my 3-day rule, 1, 2, 3, this is usually where you can't just keep going forever. It's going to stall out in this 2090 area. Could be a good area if it does get up there on Monday. It could be a decent area to short a call. Disney, got long a little Disney on Friday. It really started to move up, and I'm just watching this, but it did break out of this level here. And so I'm in that as it broke through the 200-day moving average here. And you can see here, this is a area of resistance. We're breaking out. It is 2 days up, pretty strong. So good volume on the breakout, and all stochastic. So I'll be looking maybe to take some profits here on Monday on that, and maybe hold some to see if it can continue to go higher. Google looks like it's going to break out here. I'm just watching this 110 level. JPM, I've talked about this again. 3-day rule. Don't trade it through earnings. There's your earnings report, big gap up, 1, 2, 3, and then just runs out of momentum, and of course right at an area where you would expect it to. Now it's pulled back significantly, so if you'd have sold the 142 calls up here, what are we going to trade? I didn't, even though I was looking at it, I just didn't do it. Las Vegas Sands, really like this, looks like it's going to go higher, and can play that any number of ways to the long side. And you can see here, here's the monthly, and it is breaking out. Here's a monthly level here. We're right at it right now. So again, nice move on Las Vegas Sands. Microsoft, again, 3-day rule, 1, 2, 3 up, and it could be a good short here around 310 on the calls. And if you don't, you don't have to just go short. You can do a short and then buy a higher call with some of that money, and in that way you can limit your loss, but you'll also limit your gain. Netflix was one I did, shorted the it was the 320s. I shorted the puts, and so you can see here we held above that, and that turned out to be a good trade after it pulled back. Nvidia, range bound here, and AMD is reporting, so be careful on Nvidia because it will probably move on sympathy. Tesla looks like it's held 150 for the time being. This is an area where there'll be resistance around 165, so watch that for not 165, 170 area. This was the high on this candle, so 170 could be some resistance on Tesla. If it can get through there, there's a gap to fill here. Then we know that stocks that gap down tend to come back and fill those gaps. And that's about it. So wrapping things up here, as I mentioned earlier, the markets are breaking through some areas of resistance, moving higher. Mentioned last week I was still pretty bullish on the markets overall. Bias was to the upside, and proved to be the case. So you can see here we've moved our resistance levels up on the Qs, the Dow, and resistance levels on the SPY are still around 420. And we're stuck in a mid-range here on the IWM. So again, IWM seems to still be struggling here. On economic events, we do have 945 manufacturing PMI. Wednesday, big day there, Fed rate hike decision. Then 2:30 Powell speaks, so that will be a volatile afternoon for sure. Keep an eye on that if you're trading Wednesday. Thursday, 8:30, we've got jobless claims and employment reports Thursday, Friday. So again, markets have been moving on these numbers because this seems to be the sticky strong point in the economy is the employment, and looking to see if this can weaken a bit. That would be good news probably for the markets overall. As far as earnings coming this week, again, we've got a big earnings season or a big earnings week coming up. Had some biggies last week. This week we've got some semiconductors on Monday and Uber, AMD in the afternoon on Tuesday. That'll be interesting. Starbucks. And then, of course, Thursday will be a big day. Apple, Shopcoin, Block, formerly known as Square, Donkey Kong or DKNG, DraftKings, as I like to call it, Donkey Kong, and Lyft. Uber has, I believe, it will be already reported on Tuesday. So that's it, everybody. Well, anyway, I hope you've had a good weekend so far. Get out, enjoy the weather, the weekend while you can, and 8 o'clock on Monday morning, we'll be back at it again. Pre-market shows and then trading the market open at 9:30 with our members as per usual. So look forward to seeing you Monday morning. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of the weekend.